They came marching up my gravel path in khakis and clipboards, acting like my forest was theirs, like they'd been waiting their whole lives to write someone up for not folding a tent flap the right way. Yeah, you know that type. I mean, if you'd told me back when I was buying land in Montana that my biggest threat wasn't fire or drought, but a rogue HOA 12 miles out of bounds, I would have laughed you right off the porch. But here they were, badge lanyards, swinging Prius, humming at the trailhead, ready to steal my land with fake laws and even faker concern. What they didn't know was they'd picked the wrong guy. See, I don't just protect nature, I fight for it. And this time the wild was fighting back right alongside me. Folks always say owning land is freedom. Whoever coined that line never tangled with an HOA that thinks binoculars give them jurisdiction. My name's Noah Brenner, 44, former Army engineer, now working in environmental restoration. I spent years saving up for these 800 acres, up by Lake Graywood, Montana, remote, pristine, not a scrap of it bought with funny money or shady deals. It's all mapped, registered, and surveyed to the last crooked pine, every deed in order with the county and state. Every July, like clockwork, my wife Laura and I pack the kids up for what's basically a sacred ritual at this point. Tent camping by the lake, no power, no Wi-Fi, just dragonflies, bear-safe boxes, and the smell of pine after rain. We do it right. Composting toilets, fire rings dug down to spec gray water filtration cobbled together from old carbon beds and gravel. My kids learn to track animals and spot wild mint. We leave no trace but laughter and maybe the echo of my son's bad harmonica solos. This summer started out no different. We pulled in Friday, set up camp, got the kettle going over the fire pit. My youngest, Ivy, chased dragonflies in rubber boots while my boy built a bench from downed cedar. Laura organized supplies while I checked the solar lanterns and made sure the cams were all working. That first night, loons cried out over the water and we traded ghost stories. It was one of those perfect quiets you only get way off the main road until Monday rolled around, and I spotted movement at the trailhead. Here they come, two people in neon vests, khaki polos, HOA badges shining like they were about to bust a meth lab instead of a family campout. One with an iPad, the other with a clipboard, and behind them that Prius with a magnet reading Lakeshore Pines HOA Environmental Oversight. I already felt my blood pressure tick up. Warning, I called out, wiping my hands on my jeans. "Can I help you with something?" Clipboard guy didn't even blink. "Sir, this area has been reported as a restricted eco-sensitive zone. We're here to document unauthorized land use and issue formal notice." I stepped between him and my tent, still trying to keep it civil. "This is private property. My name's Noah Brenner. I own every inch from the road split up through the lakefront." The woman with the iPad started in with a pinched smile. "Lakefront access falls under HOA jurisdiction due to community-protected shoreline rights. You can't camp this close to the water. It violates our conservation bylaws." I almost laughed right in her face. "What bylaws?" "Your boundary ends 12 miles south. This isn't part of your community. Your HOA doesn't extend this far." She narrows her eyes, rattling off some 2021 ecological overlay update talking about secondary view buffers and protected visual assets. You ever hear a term that sounds made up just so someone can say no to you? "That's what this was, scenic preservation initiative," she said, like I'd stumbled into Yosemite instead of my own property. "Because someone can see this lake from their porch, I can't camp here." "That's correct," she chirped. "Until we conclude our assessment, you'll need to relocate at least 500 feet from the water line." I actually laughed, then couldn't help it. "Get off my property," I said deadpan. Clipboard guy stiffens up. "Failure to comply may result in civil citations and an official report filed with the county." I stepped closer, voice low. I've got property lines mapped licensed for eco-education and full state permission. You're trespassing, unless you brought a county surveyor or a sheriff turnaround. They huffed but left muttering about the board. Didn't take an hour for Laura to find a sign staked at the trail, HOA Environmental Oversight Zone under monitoring. I yanked it out and tossed it on the gravel. That night a drone buzzed slow and silent above the lake, just a blinking light against the pines. Ivy thought it was a firefly. I wasn't so sure. Next morning, I got my lawyer on the line and uploaded every bit of footage Prius plates faces the works to the cloud. I checked the state's property overlay boundaries were clean, still ours, but I knew this was just the opening salvo. Wednesday, I picked up a letter from my P.O. Box County seal, all shiny on the envelope. It was a notice of preliminary environmental violation and temporary use suspension, bureaucratic, speak for get out or else. The kicker. The complaint cited unpermitted use, shoreline degradation, and vehicle encroachment in a protected watershed. I had 48 hours or daily penalties would kick in. I just laughed out loud right there in the parking lot because this was insane. They'd not only filed a complaint, but did it through official channels using language you only pick up from one place, HOA board meetings. Laura was already on her phone when I got back. "You won't believe this," she said, showing me a Facebook post by someone named Karen S. caption. "It's disheartening to see private interests exploiting our fragile ecosystem," with a blurry shot of our tents. Comments like, "Didn't know people could just claim lakes now, and is this why the fish are dying?" That's when I said, "We don't pack, we document." Pulled up every deed map license, uploaded the works, emailed the county. That drone footage showed 3 figures late at night hammering in the sign clear as day. Sent it all to the sheriff with the subject line, "Suspected harassment and unauthorized signage." Then I called the State Environmental Licensing Bureau. A woman named Patricia looked up my site and said, "Mr. Brenner, you're pre-certified for ecological use, no restrictions unless there's proof of harm." "Any basis for suspension?" I asked. "None. Someone either misunderstood or deliberately omitted your status." Sent her the drone footage too. That night, my lawyer Kevin filed a motion to block the county's action and demand a hearing. Laura and I debated move the camp or stand our ground. "Let them try to make us," she said. "Let's give them paperwork instead." But just as I started to relax, a white SUV showed up. Karen herself stepped out, pastel blouse, clipboard hair, sprayed like she was running for mayor. "You've been served," she said, handing me a formal HOA warning. Fake seals, fake citations, the whole 9 yards. I told her, "You're 12 miles outside your jurisdiction. This land never will be under your HOA." She just smiled. "That's what you say." "No, Karen, that's what the law says." She glanced at Ivy and muttered something about dragging children into this mess. That did it. "You have 20 seconds to leave before I call the sheriff again." She left, but within 2 hours, Laura got an email from a journalist. Someone had pitched a story about a developer polluting a public lake. I looked out at our spotless camp and realized this was war. By Thursday, I hiked the perimeter and checked my old trail cams. Sure enough, there's Karen pastel blouse and all hammering in another sign 100 yards inside my line, one of her flunkies snapping a selfie. Copied the footage, labeled it, sent it to Kevin. Then came the twist. Kevin called, fired up. "The county just filed an amendment. Someone submitted aerials claiming you've damaged the shoreline. They want a third-party audit. And guess who recommended the board? Karen S., your new favorite neighbor." I had enough. Compiled a dossier, water quality data, GPS logs, lab-certified tests. Turns out the only phosphate contamination in that lake came from the south side inflow pipe runoff from Lakeshore Pines HOA. The same folks accusing me of pollution. Called Elena at the Montana Department of Natural Resources, a contact from wildfire remediation days. She told me. We'll take it from here. Barely hung up before Laura ran out waving her phone. Local news, private landowner accused of unauthorized encampment. The segment cut to Karen on her deck looking pained. It's about stewardship, she said, all teary-eyed. I wanted to throw the TV into the lake. By sunset, I dumped every file, maps, footage, water reports on a public drive and sent it everywhere. State ecologists, reporters, a guy at UM's journalism school. If you want to see what a hostile land grab looks like dressed up as environmentalism, start here. It exploded 4,000 shares by morning, and Karen's house of cards started to wobble. The next day started with a state chopper overhead, followed by Elena and her team, real credentials in hand. I handed over the full packet, timestamps, slope data, everything. Elena grinned. You always did over-prepare. While they toured, Karen showed up with her legal muscle. Elena shut them down. Unless you're authorized by the DNR, you need to leave. Karen tried to argue about stakeholders. Not here, not on this land. Karen just stood there furious while her lawyer looked like he wanted to crawl under the SUV. That afternoon, the DNR wrapped up full compliance, no violations, and a note in the file, complaint appears retaliatory. The next day, the county attorney opened an investigation into Lakeshore Pines HOA, illegal runoff, falsified reports, unauthorized signage. Elena forwarded satellite data. Runoff pipe had been leaking gray water into the lake for years, exactly as my report showed. Subpoenas flew. Karen's board held a closed meeting too late. Someone leaked audio. Did we ever confirm jurisdiction before she sent the complaint? Another board member, wait, is that lake even within our overlay? Silence. Then a freelance reporter named Daniel Reed called. Noah, this isn't just your fight. This is happening everywhere. Private groups weaponizing fake environmentalism to control land. Next day, he showed up with a camera crew. It was no longer just my story. Media took off. Karen doubled down, spinning tales on the HOA lawn. But records prove she and her crew trespassed, planted fake signs, and ignored their own runoff problem. That evening, we held a press meet by the fire pit. No podium. Just Laura explaining solar water bags, Ivy showing off composting toilets, and me laying it out 800 acres, fully deeded, fully permitted. HOA sits 12 miles south, illegally posted signs, filed false reports, and the only pollution came from their own drains. Next day, the story broke nationally. Eco-fascism Montana landowner exposes HOA environmental fraud. The comment sections lit up. Property owners, campers, even ex-HOA members rallied behind us. Karen hit back with a lawsuit, claimed defamation, disruption, invasion of privacy. Kevin just laughed. She filed in county court. Now we subpoena every HOA document. That's when we found the goldmine emails showing Karen plotting. If we can prove ecological damage, we can push a protective overlay claim. Use words like habitat fragility, it'll play better. Reports admitting the south runoff pipe was dirty. And the clincher, they ignored warnings not to attract attention. The DNR cleared me 0 violations. The state ordered Lakeshore Pines to remediate, take down all fake signs, and conduct a full cleanup. Karen tried to disappear, but she'd already been subpoenaed. The sheriff rolled up to my place and said, "We're serving notice of compliance investigation on your neighbors this time. Turns out their sewage pipe cut across my boundary." I showed them the old BLM marker. The officers started sampling soil, and I watched them walk straight into HOA hell. Court came, gray skies and all. Karen sat stiff and silent, her lawyer trying to spin the narrative, but Kevin laid out the facts, drone footage, lab reports, emails. The judge listened, then ruled HOA's actions deliberately misleading, coercive, and unlawful. $620,000 in penalties for the HOA. Karen herself, $175,000 for defamation and obstruction. HOA to remove all signage, dismantle drains, issue an official apology. charges against me dismissed with prejudice. Outside, a reporter asked for comment. I just said, sometimes the wild is more civilized than the neighborhoods trying to contain it. Kevin cracked up. That's going on a mug. 2 weeks later, Karen was gone. The state took over HOA management budgets, slashed credibility in shambles. We threw a festival Wilderness Winds campfires, clean water. Even some former HOA folks came by quiet and a little sheepish. That weekend, the only thing rising off the lake was pine smoke, not legal threats. And as I stood by the shore lantern in hand, 800 acres behind me, I realized this wasn't just about my land. It was about everyone who ever wanted to be left alone and had to fight for it. So tell me, where do you draw the line between stewardship and control? Drop a comment. Share your story. Because out here, sometimes you gotta fight just to keep what's yours wild and free.